We have a first-timer here on Oscar Sunday, Dr. Strangelove, released at the very beginning of 1964, famous dumpuary area of the movie industry. The films we talked about prior to this episode, Pulp Fiction came out in October, Da 5 Bloods came out this past June on Netflix, Rocky came out in December, In the Bedroom came out in November, and The Great Dictator came out in October. Huh. Very interesting. This definitely raised my eyebrow when we chose Dr. Strangelove for this episode 6 of Oscar Sunday. And I saw that it came out in January of 1964, which is so interesting because that's 16 months before the 37th Academy Awards. I find that to be interesting because dumpuary is, a known term, right? Not just to film buffs, but to people over the place. So without further ado, Dr. Strangelove is going to be our topic today. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
All right, my man. We got Dr. Strangelove, a Kubrick classic from, again, 1964. We're going to be talking about the 37th Academy Awards that occurred in 1965, April 5th of 1965. Again, 16 months after Dr. Strangelove came out. So I want to explain a little bit about that. Dr. Strangelove, famously one of Kubrick's, masterpieces. He has a few, depending on how you look at him as a director. Here at Filmgazm Productions, we find him to be one of the most gifted directors of all time.
Yeah. And
Strangelove is definitely one of his best movies. It was an easy pick for 1964, but there are also some great movies from that year. Man, this is a fascinating story. The reason that this movie came out in January is because Kubrick found out that there was going to be another movie coming out in 1964 called Failsafe, directed by the great Sidney Lumet, who, Lumet's very much a director who likes to take a script and all right, I'm going to kind of do some stuff with it. And Kubrick is a guy, I want total control. I want everything to be mine. So in 1963, Entertainment Corporation of America purchased the rights to Failsafe, and Kubrick just wasn't cool with that. He, at this point, we'll bring up the book Red Alert, which I believe came out, is it 1958? Is that right?
58.
Yeah. And this is a book that Kubrick bought the rights to, creative rights to make Dr. Strangelove. And he felt that the movie Failsafe and the source material for that, I cannot remember what book that is. It's right here. Hold on. He felt that there were a lot of similarities between these two books, Kubrick did, and felt that there was going to be a lot of similarities, therefore, within the movie Failsafe, which was coming out in the same year, scheduled to come out the same year. I cannot find what this book was called.
It was just Failsafe.
Okay, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, same name.
Also.
Yeah, there you go. There it is. Yeah, right there. Yeah, so you have Kubrick who's saying this book is way too similar to what we're already trying to do. So he's like, all right, I'm going to file a fucking lawsuit because I'm Stanley Kubrick. This is how I'm going to roll. I'm going to have total control, and my movie is going to be king. So long story short, Stanley Kubrick's movie Dr. Strangelove comes out in January. Failsafe comes out in October, and doesn't do nearly as well in the box office. So Kubrick is kind of biting the bullet there by saying, I'm going to have my movie come out first, because typically with the Oscars, the Oscar bait is normally, movies that come out in the summer, late summer or fall, right?
Yeah.
Not in this case. Strangelove made the full lap, kept going, and made some noise at the 37th Academy Awards with 5 nominations. Jeez Louise. It is crazy. I want to bring you in, Connor, to hear your thoughts on this debacle.
Well,
just insanity.
Kubrick, he didn't give a fuck about the Oscars. He didn't care about awards. All he cared about was the product and the legacy of the product.
Legacy,
so
yes.
I think this had nothing to do with the Oscars in his eyes. In his eyes, it was, I am going to beat this race. I'm going to win this.
Yes.
Yeah. And
legacy,
I mean, that guy acted,
legacy and financially.
And this was prior to, I think this was the movie I think that really put him on like Hollywood's radar as like a mastermind. This, and then following it with 2001 and then A Clockwork Orange, like this guy just kept going. But he acted like king shit of fuck mountain from the very beginning. Kubrick acted the way he was because that's just who he was. Like Hollywood didn't change him. If anything, it just kind of gave him just like, it made who he was justified. And I mean, he's not a very, he's known for being a horrible person to, take orders from, and his manipulation is known throughout Hollywood. But the product, man, I mean, the films are so incredible and timeless and legendary. And I think it makes perfect sense that he did what he did, because that's exactly what I think he would have done in that situation.
Yeah. I was not necessarily surprised by it. I was just like, oh my gosh, he really went there.
It's a crazy story, but it is not a shock.
and I actually have seen Failsafe. I love Sidney Lumet as a director.
Yeah,
I think he's a genius. And Failsafe is very, very intense, and there's times where it's just so close, like in your face. The cinematography is really what stands out to me there. But I understand. I've not read either book, but I understand where Kubrick is coming from. I find it so funny that this movie came out. Failsafe came out like 9 months after,
and people are still talking about Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, and I know plenty of there's film scholars out there who would bring up Failsafe as one of the movies of 1964 that should have been up, because it is a I think you would like it a lot, Connor. I think it's a strong movie, but the topic here today is Dr. Strangelove, right? When was the first time you saw this movie?
I saw this for the first time about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I hadn't really explored Kubrick. I had only seen The Shining, and I had heard this was funny, so I watched it, and I didn't really get it at the time. I was still kind of, I was fairly young. I wasn't really, I hadn't seen any of the actors before, so I didn't really know what was the deal. I watched
That's a big deal.
Years later in my the Kubrick class I took in college, and I fell in love. I was like, this movie's fucking awesome. This is hilarious. I love all these people. Like, where has this been all my life? So I've stayed pretty much with that mentality, and I loved it even more watching it for the show.
Hell yeah, dude. That's fantastic. I haven't been, I didn't watch it that long ago. As you know, there's certain directors and whatnot that I just didn't tap into till more recently. And I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago is the first time I saw Strangelove. And I also hadn't seen these guys a ton, Peter Sellers and, Sterling Hayden, who I fell in love with from The Killing. Another one of Kubrick's masterpieces, one of my favorite Kubrick movies. It definitely helps if you just tack on more years, right? When you watch a movie like Dr. Strangelove, which is, this just brilliant satire, which is fun because we did Great Dictator last week, to follow that up with another political satire is fun, but definitely a much different movie focusing on much different things. I find it to be not just hilarious, but a masterclass in directing, a masterclass in cinematography. And when I rewatched it this time, it was just my second time seeing it ever. I was like, yeah, I had texted you. I was like, yeah, this is a masterpiece. I kind of forgot how wonderful every single beat is. How Peter Sellers is just fucking mind blowing. Those are things that definitely come with, the movie seasoning. As you start watching more stuff. So yeah, I love that you bring that up. And I think I said this was up for 5, but it was actually up for 4. Yep. Did not win anything, but there are 4. This has happened with us with the past 3 episodes. 4 important ones.
Yeah.
In the Bedroom also was up for 5 and didn't win anything, but there are 5 important ones. And then same thing last week with The Great Dictator, right? Whereas up for these big time awards, just didn't win. Same thing here, Dr. Strangelove. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I disagree.
Yeah, me too.
I think this movie has some wonderful things going on in it, and we're definitely going to get into those things within the plot later on. But we're going to start with the first category, which would be screenplay. You want to name off those nominees there, Connor?
Screenplay, best adapted screenplay. We have Zorba the Greek by Michael Kakayanis, My Fair Lady by Alan J. Lerner, Mary Poppins by Bill Walsh and Don DeGrady, Dr. Strangelove by Stanley Kubrick, Terry Southern, and Peter George, and the winner, Beckett by Edward Anhalt.
What do you notice? What do you notice right away? With those 5.
Those are the Best Picture nominees.
Exactly. Yes. Through and through. Those are the exact 5 that were up for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Wow. We got to see all of these except for Zorba the Greek.
Yes.
Man, I watched Beckett just not that long ago. Today, we really try to do our homework for this one because 1964 is a very strange year when you look at it. Do you agree with this one? Beckett's a strong movie. Do you agree with this?
Screenplay, Beckett was a fantastic movie. It was a very interesting story, very layered. Dr. Strangelove is brilliantly written as well. All of these are, this is a toughie because these are
very
all
tough.
Pretty super well written stories. I think I will give it to Beckett.
I'll zag and I got to go Strangelove. I think there's, in particular, there's scenes at the Pentagon that are just like, oh my gosh, like this is genius writing. The
thing is,
but
when it comes to Strangelove, I think the reason I give give screenplay to Beckett is because Peter Sellers improvised a lot of his lines.
Okay.
So a lot of the genius of this film comes from Peter Sellers just thinking off the cuff.
Well, we'll be bringing that up very shortly. Because, like I said, these next 3 are, these are massive categories. Best director. This is a group that is the same 5 again. Man, you want to name them off? Go ahead.
Michael Kakayanis for Zorba the Greek, Robert Stevenson for Mary Poppins, Stanley Kubrick for Dr. Strangelove, Peter Glenville for Beckett, and the winner, George Cukor for My Fair Lady. George Cukor also directed The Philadelphia Story, which we talked about last week a bit.
Wow, how about that? 24 years prior. Yeah, that's amazing. Still got it.
Director, 100% goes to Kubrick, in my opinion.
Hands down. Not even close.
Not even close.
What's like amazing about this is with the general movie fan, you would look at those names and you'd be like, well, I'm not quite sure who they are, but I know who Stanley Kubrick is because he's Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. But it's like, no, it's true here. It's true. I can't speak for Zorba the Greek. I know your grandmother and my mother are both fans of that one. I do want to see that at some point.
Yes.
I've heard it's quite funny, so I would love to see that. But yeah, Kubrick is doing some masterclass stuff.
Yes, indeed. And for those of you who may not know, I know Beckett was a film that I had never heard of prior to checking these out. Beckett is a 1964 historical drama starring Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole, and it's about the relationship between King Henry II and his best friend turned arch rival Thomas Becket, Archbishop of Canterbury. It's a very involved drama, very layered, very poignant, and extremely well acted, and I highly recommend it. It's a hidden gem that really deserves more attention and more acclaim. It kind of got lost in the 60s. Like a lot of these films, Dr. Strangelove, Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady, these have, lived on. Beckett kind of stayed behind.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a 3-headed monster here.
Yeah. I would love to do Beckett on its own in the future on this show.
Yeah. We pointed out that last week we pointed out how we want to do Rebecca on its own and Philadelphia Story on its own because those were both great, both nominated for Best Picture. Yeah. But we jumped decade to decade, randomly. Next week, we'll let you know about that one later. Yeah, man, it's got to be Kubrick for director.
Yep. And George Cukor, My Fair Lady, is very well directed, but it doesn't have like a style to it. Kubrick was very, very stylistic. Like we know exactly what a Kubrick film looks like. Yeah. George,
My Fair Lady, I've seen stuff like that before. Yeah.
It looks like a play because it was a play.
Exactly.
And, yeah, I think Kubrick. For any of his films, I think this was this in 2001 are probably the 2 he should have taken it for.
For a director?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You can go down the line and make an argument for so many of them. There's just he has a certain filmography that's just of a different class. Yeah,
for sure. That takes us to Best Actor. So
here we go.
Best Actor, we have Peter Sellers for Dr. Strangelove, Anthony Quinn for Zorba the Greek, Peter O'Toole for Beckett, Richard Burton for Beckett, and the winner, Rex Harrison for My Fair Lady. Now, Rex Harrison is lights out in My Fair Lady. He is hilarious. He's sarcastic. He's great. But Peter Sellers is in a fucking masterclass all his own in this film. He plays Dr. Strangelove, he plays President Muffley, and he plays Group Captain Lionel Mandrake. 3 distinct, very different characters. That is unbelievable. And the fact that he did not take this home is fucking robbery.
Yeah, I think it's fucking highway robbery. I love seeing a film have 2 nominations for Best Actor. That's really cool because that means 2 guys just fucking went for it in the same film. But come on, man, Peter Sellers, what he's doing. This is something that I noticed on the rewatch where I was like, holy shit, Peter Sellers. I know who he is. I know what's going on. I know what he's capable of, and I see exactly what he's doing with each character. And holy hell, this guy. To me, from what I've seen in the 60s, is my favorite performance of the 60s, not just 1964.
Yeah, definitely an argument could be made. I mean, he's on a different level, and he's hilarious in all 3 of those roles. And
yeah, man, it's just unbelievable.
It's fantastic. And if you're not really familiar with Peter Sellers, you could be fooled into thinking it's 3 different actors.
100%, 100%, especially the president, man. Like, what in the hell? God, shit should have been up for fucking best makeup. Come on.
It's fantastic. Yeah, this movie really, like, I can't believe it didn't get anything.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah. It's one of those, again, this has been a theme this is the 3rd week now of doing a film that just didn't quite, grab it.
Yeah. And that takes us to Best Picture. Zorba the Greek, Mary Poppins, Dr. Strangelove, Beckett, and the winner was My Fair Lady, 1964's Best Picture. No. I don't think so. My Fair Lady's good. It ain't great. I think that I wouldn't watch it again. I don't think. I thought it was cute, but
well, okay. Well, here's the thing about My Fair Lady is it's 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
That's tough for me to say. My favorite movie ever is Magnolia. It's about 3 hours.
True.
But this movie, My Fair Lady, is a jaunt. It's like a marathon. You're rewarded along the way for sure. Great performances and some very funny dialogue. But again, when you feel like you said, it's, because it's a play, you feel like sometimes I've been here before. It's just like, I don't need to rewatch this a bunch.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins, on the other hand, is a very, very fun and a movie that you can introduce to your children sort of thing. It's just lovely. And it just pops so much. And it's amazing that Disney, still has these Oscar nominations all the way back then to now, man. They just keep churning out all these kinds of different films that make noise.
Mary Poppins is a very personal film for me. I grew up with it. I watched it with my grandma a lot. It's so enduring and it's so sweet and it's so charming and it's so just perfect that I don't know.
Yeah.
Beckett, on the other hand, is a fairly new gem, in our opinion, new to us.
For us, yeah.
That I think any other year would have really stood a chance. It's got, 2 legendary performers in Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole, not to mention John Gielgud as the King of France. And it's just such a exciting and risky drama because it very much deals with, homosexuality in a smart way. Yeah. I mean, it's very clear that Henry loved Thomas Beckett more than a friend.
Yeah.
But he couldn't, in the 60s, homosexuality was still illegal, and they couldn't come out and say what this movie was about. So they had to kind of dance around it, like the Maltese Falcon. And I thought the end result was fucking brilliant. But it's up against some incredible films that are personal favorites of mine. So in the end, I am going to have to give it to Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, me too. yeah, this is, someone can make the argument that this is Kubrick's greatest film. It's wrapped up so nicely. It's tight. It's abrupt and has these performances that are so fucking good. But besides Peter Sellers, personally, Sterling Hayden, I adore that guy. I think when he's got the cigar in his mouth, I can't look away from that guy.
He's like a fucking Bond villain in this movie.
Dude, yeah.
He really did. He single-handedly destroyed the world. I mean, that's pretty crazy. My personal favorite is George C. Scott as Buck Turgison. I mean, he's fucking insane.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Crazy shit he says in this movie.
Yeah, see, I didn't, I hadn't, when I first saw Strangelove, I hadn't seen Patton. I hadn't watched some George C. Scott stuff. I didn't know what he was capable of. And now I watch it and I'm like, oh my God, that guy is going for it, dude. Like, yeah. So Strangelove is a film I think you need some seasoning to really appreciate. I think that's gonna be a theme here. Whereas My Fair Lady and Mary Poppins, I think a lot of people are just gonna enjoy just because the way it looks, the colors, the kind of G-rated material, where it's just kind of for everybody. Strangelove is very smart, it's whip fast, and it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to personal preference. I mean, if you are a diehard fan of musicals, you're gonna fucking adore My Fair Lady and Mary Poppins. But if you love political satire and a director like Kubrick, Dr. Strangelove is your cup of tea. So
yeah, man,
it's like film in general. It's really up to the viewer. I mean, we just give our 2 cents.
Yeah, exactly. And I there's one thing about Julie Andrews that I have to point out, and it's that your grandmother told me very convincingly, Julie Andrews is the queen. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to argue. I think I was talking about Hepburn, and I was just saying how awesome she is. And she's like, yeah, but Julie Andrews is the queen. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. I was convinced.
Well, there's a reason she told you that, because My Fair Lady was Rex Harrison and Julie Andrews on Broadway. They made it famous. When they decided to make the movie, Rex Harrison was an established film actor already, and they decided to go with him and Audrey Hepburn as a surefire win instead of Julie Andrews, who had never done film before. So she got cut out of her tentpole performance. That same year, Disney hired her as Mary Poppins, and she walked home with Best Actress that year.
Yes, she did, against Anne Bancroft, Sophia Loren, Debbie Reynolds, and Kim Stanley. Just a nice group there. Julie Andrews comes out on top.
Hepburn wasn't even nominated.
It's pretty amazing to look at. Hepburn, depending on how you look at it, she could be overacting in some people's eyes, in My Fair Lady, or it could be right up your alley, depending on how you look at it.
I think the fact that she didn't sing cuts her out for me. That's a big no-no for me when it comes to, if you're going to act in a musical, learn to sing.
Yes, which don't worry, one day we will bring up the infamous win that Rami Malek straight up stole from Christian Bale. We will talk about that one day, my friend.
That has come up a lot randomly in various episodes.
Well, because it's you look at those ones that get stolen, right? Rex Harrison over Peter Sellers. Okay, all right. But
and that's nothing against Rex Harrison's performance. He's hilarious in My Fair Lady. Yeah. But Peter Sellers was better. And that's
100%. That's what it's all about.
When it comes to awards that we think this should have been up for, I absolutely would give George C. Scott Best Supporting Actor for this.
And Sterling Hayden. Well, both of them, yeah.
True, but I would give the award to George C. Scott. Straight
that's
up.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. He is. Yeah, he's going for it in this movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think that you had mentioned makeup, I think.
Yeah, makeup just because of what Peter Sellers. But my main thing is cinematography. It's not up. It's not up for that. You got My Fair Lady, Beckett, Cheyenne Autumn, Mary Poppins, and the unsinkable Molly Brown. I don't know. I'm not sure.
And the makeup award didn't exist until 1980 anyway.
Those are little things we'll find out as we do this, is what awards get added on, what are taken away. Amazing. But I see one film that I want to bring up because we're talking about 1964, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in your Hall of Tens,
Yeah.
and it has something to do with James Bond.
Oh, does it now?
Yes, best sound effects, Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
Explain yourself. Why is that in your Hall of Tens? I would love to hear. I've seen it. It's great. Explain.
Goldfinger is the movie that turned the James Bond series into the James Bond franchise. It's the movie that established James Bond as a recurring film franchise that was going to last forever. Dr. No was fantastic. From Russia with Love was fantastic. Goldfinger is fucking lights out. And it still holds up. It's got, the campy villain. It's got the cool gadgets. It's got the ridiculously over-the-top Bond girl named, I swear to God, Pussy Galore. I mean, Jesus Christ. And, it's a little bit dated in times. I don't want to bring that up right now because that's going to take us into a whole new area. But
yeah, no. Yeah, we'll do that at some other point. Yeah.
Goldfinger is an absolute classic to me. It was also the first Bond theme we really got. There's just so much about Goldfinger that established the Bond franchise. And, one of my favorites. Probably my favorite of that year.
I was just about to say, do you like this or Strangelove better? And there you go. You like Goldfinger a little bit better. How about Fistful of Dollars?
Fistful of Dollars is fucking awesome. That's a great Western.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's a badass movie.
Have you seen the whole Dollars trilogy?
Hell yeah. Not in a while, but yeah. Oh yeah.
Same here. It's been a while.
Yeah, but, we've talked about Clint Eastwood. It's he's a polarizing guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was making the best westerns of his age. Him and Sergio Leone were fucking amazing.
Which I do want to bring up. You brought up Sergio Leone, a composer that I don't think I've brought up since he passed away.
Yeah,
our boy Ennio.
Morricone.
Ah, man, so frustrating. You bring up that movie, so I think of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So sad. A guy who's just a titan. A guy that he's been involved with so many movies you and I just adore.
Yeah.
So many movies that Americans and people all over the world adore because they're great films, and he adds to them so much. Yeah, really, really frustrating. We're both sorry we didn't bring that up sooner.
Yeah. I can't believe he only won one Oscar in his career, and it was in 2015 for The Hateful Eight.
I know, which is genius work. That movie has some awesome technical stuff, but yeah, wow.
I mean, Once Upon a Time in the West, The Untouchables, The Mission, The Thing. I mean, for fuck's sake, this guy, his soundtracks were just, art.
Yeah,
the man was a genius.
Yeah, and isn't it great that a guy like you bring up The Thing? I love, thinking about him and Carpenter, is just this wonderful combination of creators.
Yeah.
He's gonna be dearly missed, man. And people are like, well, he lived a long life. It's like, yeah, but even then, he just, you never know if there's gonna be more out of him. He's just an amazing artist.
Yeah, did The Hateful Eight in his late 80s. I mean,
exactly. Show that he could fucking bring it. Yeah.
Yeah. R.I.P. Rest in peace, Mr. Morricone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's funny. We talked about Fistful of Dollars and got to. Yeah. Thanks, Clint Eastwood.
I think that about wraps us up for the Oscar side of Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah. Other than the fact that it was hosted by the 37th Academy Awards were hosted by Bob Hope. Just want to bring that up. How random that is, and you pointed out that Julie Andrews won. Not only did she win, but Mary Poppins, ran the table and was up for 13 Oscars this year. Wow.
Oh, yeah. That took home Best Song, Best Score, and Best Visual Effects. So, yeah, fantastic. It was a clean sweep. Well, not a clean sweep, but it was a close sweep.
Yeah. My Fair Lady, won 8, but they just weren't nominated for as much. So it's just it's an amazing year with some titans.
And film editing. Forgot about that one. But well deserved. We'll do Mary Poppins as its own down the road, I'm sure.
Always, yeah, we'll always do these. Yeah, like we both admitted that we probably don't want to rewatch My Fair Lady anytime soon. So we'll save that. We'll save that for later down the road.
Yeah, give it a couple years.
Yeah, well, yeah, we intend on. If you think about it, it's this could go on forever because the Oscars are hopefully going to be going on forever. Connor and I both love the Oscars because it represents movies and honors movies, whether they make shitty decisions or not. We hope they change and hope they make the right decisions, and that's part of what this show's about. I guess we'll get into the Strangelove plot here because it's a fascinating movie.
First up, I want to talk a little bit about Stanley Kubrick. And
well, yeah. I mean, anytime you want to do that, man, go ahead. Yeah.
So, on the Filmgazm podcast, we have done so far only one movie twice, and that is The Shining.
Good point. I forgot it. Yeah.
And Kubrick, we started that series out, that show with The Shining, and then that was our 1-year anniversary special, was revisiting The Shining, because Kubrick is a titan, and his films are going to last till the end of time because of the care and obsession that he put into them. And what would you say if you had to pick are like your top 3 favorite
Jesus
Kubrick?
God.
On the spot.
God. The Shining is 100% my favorite. Oh wait, always. That's going to be the case. After that, it's like Jesus H. I really, really like Dr. Strangelove. I really, really like Clockwork Orange. I really like The Killing. Really like The Killing. Wow, man, that's really hard. I'd probably say The Shining 1, Clockwork 2, Full Metal Jacket 3. I don't know, man. The Killing. I don't know. I don't know. What about you?
Number 1, The Shining. Number 2, Dr. Strangelove.
Okay.
And number 3, Paths of Glory.
Oh God. Yeah.
That is such a fantastic movie. And I don't think it was up for any Oscars, so I don't know how we're going to be able to do that on either show. But I'd love to get Paths of Glory in here sometime.
Yeah, and I everyone I have loved everything he's done. I know you're not a big fan of a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple I have problems with.
Yeah. That's fair. Definitely his last one.
There's no director that I think make consistently 100% flawless work. I think there's some great filmmakers out there, but I don't think anybody is perfect.
Has ever been perfect. Yeah.
Everyone's got a dud.
I just think Kubrick's batting average is really fucking high.
It's really good. It's
It's about as good as it can get for a director that ran from the 50s to the late 90s, So
yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty astonishing. You've seen The Killing, right?
Yes. I've seen everything except Fear and Desire and Killer's Kiss.
Okay, Killer's Kiss is the only one I haven't seen. I watched Fear and Desire the same day I watched The Killing for the first time. I watched them back to back. One of the best double features I've ever done in my life. Nice. The 50s Kubrick. I adore him. I think he's one of the titans. I think he's one of the titans of cinema, period. Like foreign, American, anything. I think he can do anything he wants. And what I think is most powerful about his films is the rewatchability of them.
Yes.
Is how you can, with fans like you and I mean, we talked about Quentin Tarantino plenty on Filmgazm and now this podcast, is that rewatchability is so important for people like you and I, fans like you and I. And there's so many fans like us who get obsessed with a piece of art. Like it's an album. They're like, I gotta fucking find the ins and outs of this. And Kubrick did that over and over and over. He would create a piece that you're required to watch multiple times to understand the weight. In case in point is The Shining, right? Is the entire world had no idea what they were seeing in 1980. It took a while for people to get it. And I think that's his greatest quality as a filmmaker, is the rewatchability of his films, because they're not only like devastating and super like, whoa, super dramatic at times, they're fucking funny and they keep you on your toes and they constantly refuse to let you sit or relax, no matter what the content is. And that I just respect that so much. Now, off the screen, I can't speak for the guy.
Yeah.
We've heard plenty of stories. Of his tenacious style, his controlling style. But as far, like you said, as far as the art goes, speaks for itself.
Yes, indeed. There's a lot of his films we're going to do on this show. I'm looking forward to one day doing Barry Lyndon. That'll be fun.
Oh my God, 1975! How can we forget? 1975 is one of the best years, right? I would love to do Barry Lyndon because we've any Filmgazm listeners would maybe know that we've already done Jaws.
Yeah.
And we've already done One Flew the Cuckoo's Nest on the Filmgazm podcast. So
yes,
it'd be a great way to kind of round out that year with Barry Lyndon, which you can argue that it's just as good as those two, man. Goddamn.
I know. The guy was on, a different level. He really was. And
yeah.
So Dr. Strangelove has an IMDb score of 8.4, Rotten Tomatoes score of 98%. Deserves that score big time. And before we get into the plot, I want to tell my favorite story I read in the trivia about this film. So
let's hear it.
This film was so strong and so well done that it changed U.S. government policy to ensure that something like this could never actually happen, that a renegade general could never launch a nuclear bomb at some country and start a global catastrophe. So, yeah, there we go. Kubrick was so good with his attention to detail, he changed U.S. nuclear war policy.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is like I've read reviews where people are like, "Don't be fooled by satire." That how honest and true this film is.
Yeah,
which is it's like fucking devastating, but it's hilarious at the same time. His ability to punch you in the face, Kubrick, and make you laugh is like, what? What are we doing here?
The way he portrays America's leadership is fucking it's terrifying, but extremely accurate. These are the warmongered assholes who were, leading our country in the Cold War. The people who thought, give me an excuse. I want to launch a nuke at your red commie ass. Like, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
Jesus. All right, with that, let's go into the story of Dr. Strangelove.
Hell yeah.
So we start at Burleson U.S. Air Force Base, where the eccentric Brigadier General Jack D. Ripper, played by Sterling Hayden. I love everybody's name in this film.
Me too. Yeah. Every little thing.
He orders 34 nuclear-armed B-52 bombers to go past their fail-safe points and enter Soviet airspace. He tells the personnel on base that the U.S. and Russia have entered a shooting war. He's lying. He has taken it upon himself to send nuclear warheads to Russia because he believes that the Russians are close to, quote, sapping and impurifying all of our precious bodily fluids. Something that comes up a lot in this film. It's such a strange thing to say.
Bodily fluids.
But we will get into that. We then go to the war room at the Pentagon, where we meet Air Force General Buck Turgison, played by George C. Scott. He gets called from the bathroom. He's sleeping with his secretary, and she answers the phone, and he's like, tell him to hang up. He's like, she says, it's urgent. He's like, what? They're like, well, apparently we launched nuclear weapons at Russia. He's like, give me the phone. Like, he doesn't take it seriously in the slightest. He's like, all right, I'll go down to the war room. But he's like, I love when he slaps his belly. He's like, here's what you got to do. It's just so, he's the exact opposite of Patton in this movie. He's the anti-Patton. Yes.
That's why I brought that exact performance up, because it's like, if you see that and you're like, oh, this is 1970 gem, that won Best Picture, and you're like, okay, this is the idea that people have of George C. Scott. And then you watch Dr. Strangelove from 6 years prior, and you're like, oh, man, this is great. What the fuck?
He heads down to the war room and briefs President Merkin Muffley, played by Peter Sellers, about the attack that General Ripper has ordered. And what he did was initiated Plan R, which is an emergency war plan that subverts presidential authority and enables a senior officer to launch a retaliation strike against the Soviets if the chain of command has been altered, as in the president has been killed, and it's a sneak attack. Basically, I can't believe this was approved, and it makes me think that since they changed real policy, that this was a fucking thing.
Yeah, I know.
All the general had to do was lie convincingly, and he could completely destroy the world.
Yeah, the fact that this teeters with like more documentary than satire is like, oh fuck.
Yeah. And during all this, Turgeson's reading this off like it's a laundry list, and the president's like, what is happening? Like, he gets really nervous, and Turgeson's like, well, I mean, I don't think we should. He's like, I don't think we should judge an entire program on the actions of just one man, sir. So, plan
his
R.
hair, his fucking hair.
It's great. My God.
Goddamn Buzz Lightyear looking fucker.
So, Plan R was also intended to discourage the Soviets from launching a decapitation strike against the president. And also, the president can't override this because only Ripper has the launch, the abort code. And if it doesn't come from him, they won't answer the phones on the plane. It's terrifying because I feel like this kind of clusterfuck very easily could have happened in the Cold War. I mean, all the shit that was being thrown at the Russians and at us, just the back and forth, the dick measuring that went on for 30 years. I'm amazed that something like this didn't happen.
Yeah, I know.
And so Turgeson has a solution, and it's to take advantage of the situation and launch a full-scale attack at Soviet Russia. He believes that if the United States is in a superior strategic position and they strike first, we would obliterate 90% of their missiles before they could retaliate, resulting in a victory for the U.S. with a quote-unquote acceptable casualty margin of 20 million people. That's the best scenario that Turgeson comes up with. He's like, and he's proud of this. He's like, we would win, and only 20 million people would die. Huh, there you go.
Like, man, that's a good chess move right there. Yeah.
And Muffley's response is, I will not be known as the greatest mass murderer since Adolf Hitler. And Turgeson's response is, well, sir, I mean, it'd probably be best if you were less concerned about the history books than you were with the American people. My God. So Muffley's like, no, we're done with this. And it calls he gets the Soviet ambassador to the war room. And Turgeson's like, you're going to let him in here? He's going to see the big board. Like, he's going to know what we're up to. And
the big board.
That's the idea. We're trying to stop a war here. The ambassador comes in, and Turgeson's immediately like, you fucking red commie bastard. Like, it's just immediately. And Muffley has him call the Soviet premier kiss off. And the more I talk about this, like, it really was clearly influenced by The Great Dictator. There's so much in here that
for sure. Every satire movie, man.
We timed these so well.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it just worked out like that. So he's trying to call kiss off, and Turgeson attacks the ambassador and tries to plant the camera on him, and they start fighting. And Muffley walks over to them and says one of the best movie quotes of all time: "Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room." It's in like a bunch of countdowns on like greatest movie quotes of all time, and it deservedly should be.
Yeah, this movie altogether is ranked number 67 greatest movie of all time in IMDb. That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. And it's on countless best of all time lists.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many lists that call it the funniest movie of all time. That it's
in the National Film Registry. Like, yeah, this is a landmark film. And
it's a Criterion selected. Yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah.
during all this, we see the crew of one of these bombers getting this code and thinking like, that can't be what it's supposed to be. Like, I mean, these guys are basically told, all right, war, attack Russia. That's not, your usual day on the job. So they want confirmation. They're like, sir, can you look at this? And he's like, well, what is it? It's Slim Pickens playing this like good old boy bomber pilot, cowboy hat and everything. And he's like, are you sure it says that? You better call and get confirmation. So they're like, if we're going to do this, we need to know, like, for sure, these are the orders. And I like that they double, triple check. But unfortunately, later on their radio gets busted and they don't get the code.
Yes.
Everything that had to go wrong for what ended up happening, it's a fucking crazy domino effect. So they get Kissoff on the line, and Muffley's like, look, a crazy general, hijacked our bombers. You got to shoot down these planes. And Kissoff's like, this has got to be a trick. He's like, no. If this was a trick call, you wouldn't have gotten it. I love that line. If this wasn't a friendly call, you wouldn't have gotten the call.
Incredible.
Then we meet Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, an exchange officer from the Royal Air Force. Is this a thing? Like an exchange program? Or did the movie make that up?
I'm not sure. There's probably something similar.
Maybe. I'm sure with like allied countries. And he's General Ripper's executive officer. And he realizes, after listening to a civilian radio, that there is no Soviet attack. And this was a very intense drill, but Ripper should probably recall those jets. And Ripper's like, yeah, we're not doing that. And Mandrake's like, you sure? Maybe we should get on that. And Ripper's like, close the door. Like, he's so serious. That shot of like panning up of him with the cigar in his mouth, he looks like, Citizen Kane, like the king of the world.
Incredible.
Yeah. The man who sold the world right there.
Yes.
And his explanation of why he's doing what he's doing is the following. He asks Mandrake what Clemenceau once said about war. What does he know what he said? And Mandrake's like, no, I don't think I do. Ripper says, he said war was too important to be left to the generals. When he said that 50 years ago, he might have been right. But today, war is too important to be left to politicians. They have neither the time, the training, nor the inclination for strategic thought. I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids. And Mandrake's like, he doesn't really know what to say to that, as you would. And he realizes Ripper's on a personal crusade to destroy Soviet Russia personally, and there's no way to change his mind. Mandrake then says that, as his second in command, it is now up to him to issue the recall code, but only Ripper knows the code. And he locks him in his office. Mandrake tries to convince him to give up the code, and he just keeps rambling about communist fluoridation and how they're poisoning the water and how our precious bodily fluids are at stake. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Oh, and over the phone, Kissoff reveals to the Soviet ambassador that they have a bigger problem: the Soviet doomsday device that they've recently built. It'll automatically destroy all life on Earth if a nuclear attack hits the Soviet Union. And they were going to go public with it on Monday. But Ripper acted first. And the doomsday device is operated by a network of computers and has been conceived as the ultimate deterrent. And the president calls Dr. Strangelove, a former Nazi turned American scientist who is the head of weapons development or something. And it's Peter Sellers in a gray wig, dark glasses, one glove, and a wheelchair, and a German accent. And it is pure brilliance. It's the weirdest shit. His one arm just constantly moves on its own.
Yeah, his hair is incredible. Yeah, it's one of those things that I adore when they throw a character like that in there, like just to spice everything up. It flips the movie on its upside down. You're like, who is this guy? This is the title of the movie. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, I love when he'll just inadvertently do a Nazi salute.
Yeah. God, he's Peter Sellers, man.
And George C. Scott is like, who the hell is this guy? Is he a Kraut? And the other guy's like, yeah, his name he changed his name when he emigrated. It used to be Merkward de Gleben, which is German for Dr. Strangelove.
Yes.
And Turgeson's just like, well, once a Kraut, always a Kraut, I guess. Like, he's just the worst. And President asks Strangelove, like, is this possible? Is there a doomsday device? And Strangelove's like, it's not only possible, it's probable. And it is the ultimate deterrent because no one would dare attack a country with a doomsday device. Except for us. And Strangelove explains that the principle behind the doomsday device is that they never have to use it because, nobody would ever want it to go off. And the ambassador starts getting a little, green around the gills, and they all realize, shit, what are we going to do? They send paratroopers to Burpelson to arrest General Ripper and demand he give up the code. But Ripper warned his men that the enemy might attack disguised as American soldiers. And so a battle ensues. Ripper rips out a fucking 50 cal machine gun and opens fires on them, demands Mandrake feed him the ammo. And the army, they win the battle, they gain access to the base. The American soldiers in the base surrender, and Ripper realizes that he won't survive under torture. And it's amazing that Mandrake didn't just pick up on this, but Ripper puts a towel over his shoulders, walks into the bathroom, and blows his brains out. Mandrake is now in command, and he gets arrested by Colonel Bat Guano. God damn it. And he suspects that Mandrake, whose uniform he doesn't recognize, is leading a mutiny of, quote, deviated preverts. He thinks him and Ripper were preverts.
Preverts, yes.
And Mandrake's like, look, I'm the only one on Earth who can possibly know the recall code. I need to save the world. Let me talk to the president. And Guano's like, you want to talk to the president? Really? Like, he's so... Like, the way he talks to him is ridiculous. I feel like he's going to whack him with his gun every time. And I love when they get to the phone booth and he asks him for change. He's like, you think I went into battle with loose change in my pocket? He's like, well, then I need you to blast open that Coca-Cola machine. And he just looks at it. He's like, that's private property. It's like, well, look, I need change to call the president. Please shoot the machine. He's like, all right. But if you can't get the president on that phone, you have to answer to the Coca-Cola company. The seriousness with which he says that, I fucking love it.
It's perfect, yeah.
So he ends up getting the code and issues it's OPE. Prior to this, though, we get that great scene where George C. Scott falls over when he's doing his lines. Complete accident, but Kubrick left it in the movie because he maintained the character. It's hilarious. He's like, look at all that, and then he just slips right over the big board. Like, he's just off his fucking mind.
Acting, baby. I love it.
I love it. So the code is OPE. It's issued to the planes, the ones that had not been shot down, all radio in except for one, which got its radio busted when it got shot. And they decided to go through with the op. And now everyone's, what are we going to do? The president's like, well, you're just going to have to shoot the plane down. It's the only way. But as they start the bomb run, the damaged bomb bay doors won't open. Aircraft Commander Major T.J. King Kong goes down to the bomb bay to open them himself. He succeeds just as the plane reaches the target. They drop the bomb, and we get that iconic image of him waving his hat like he's riding a bull as the nuclear bomb hits Russia. And triggers the doomsday machine, and that's it. The world's over. And the war room is like, shit. I guess we better come up with a solution. And Dr. Strangelove recommends to the president that they should have a select group of about 200,000 people relocated into a deep mine shaft where the nuclear fallout can't reach them so they can repopulate the U.S. And they should have a ratio of 10 females to each male. with women selected for their sexual characteristics, men selected on the basis of physical strength, intellectual capability, and importance in business and government. And of course, everyone in there is going to have to go because the new world's going to need leadership. Because it worked out so well in the old one. And General Turgison rants that the Soviets are going to create an even better bunker than the U.S. and says that America must not allow a mine shaft gap. The race never stops. And then we see the Soviet ambassador start taking pictures with a spy camera disguised as a watch. And we see Dr. Strangelove bolt out of his wheelchair and yell, "Mein Führer, I can walk!" Oh, my God. And the film ends with nuclear explosions accompanied by the famous World War II song, "We'll Meet Again," sung by Vera Lynn. And
Yes.
Strangelove in a nutshell. It's a bonkers movie, but it is wildly entertaining.
Extremely. And the ending is just, it kind of, it does something that I love, because you see so many endings that are, whatever, predictable or kind of lame, or you're just kind of like, that wasn't original. Well, with Dr. Strangelove, it's just this abrupt, like, in-your-face ending that, it just sticks with you.
It should be bleak as hell, but because of the way Kubrick decided to shoot this, it was intended as a serious drama. But Kubrick realized that a lot of these scenes are just inherently funny. So he had them act their craziest performances and told them the camera wasn't running, and decided to use those as the actual film. I mean, that's incredible. You couldn't do that shit now.
Not at all.
He did whatever the hell he wanted to. Whatever was, good for the vision. I think that if they had held these Oscars today, if this film had come out today, I think that it would be it'd be better received at the Academy. I think it would have gotten a lot more attention. I think this is the film that has probably had this and Mary Poppins, the two that have had the most lasting legacy in the 64 Oscars. And it's just a phenomenal movie. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I also give it a 9. It's very close, very close.
So close.
Most of Kubrick's work is like that for me, right? It's really close to being just perfect. Again, this is just my second time watching this, but I'm gonna keep rewatching. I've owned it for the past few years, and I'm just gonna keep digging into it. Oh wow! How'd you watch it?
I borrowed my family's copy.
Okay, I just have it on DVD. Yeah, I don't have anything special. Just DVD. It has a couple interesting special features, but nothing crazy.
I've been trying to find it on Blu-ray for a while. I don't like just ordering films that I think of on the fly. I like hunting them down. I find that to be, that's the hunt is the best part to me.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
I'll find it one day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's out there.
And I guess that takes us into this week in film.
Yes, sir, it does.
So obviously we talked about the death of Ennio Morricone, who died at 91 after suffering a fall, of all things.
Yeah.
That was a big shocker. He will be missed. The trailer for HBO Max's new movie, An American Pickle, was launched, starring Seth Rogen in dual roles as a man who fell into a pickle vat at the turn of the century. It preserved him perfectly. He's unearthed in New York 2020, where he meets his ancestor, who has done nothing with his life. And yeah, it looks very weird. But I'm
checking it. I'm gonna check it out. I whatever your opinion is, anyone can say what they want. I like Seth Rogen.
Me too.
I'll always, since I saw, Superbad at age 12 and stuff like that, 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, and he just carried on. I'll always appreciate his work.
Yeah, me too. So I think this will be interesting. HBO Max doing an original movie, so that means they're throwing their hat into the film streaming race now.
I'm in. Why not?
I wonder what the Russians are going to retaliate with, because we cannot have a streaming gap.
There shall not be a streaming gap.
Halloween Kills has been delayed a full year. Regrettably, it's going to now be coming out in October 2021, with Halloween Ends pushed to October 2022. There was a teaser trailer released that really got me pumped for the movie. And now I got to wait a lot longer, regrettably. The teaser was just perfect. It was the ending of Halloween, the last one, with Laurie and her granddaughter and her daughter driving away in the back of that truck. And you just see fire trucks pass her by. And Laurie starts screaming, "No! Let it burn!" It's, oh God, it's so brilliant. And then Michael just turns to the camera. You can't kill the boogeyman.
Yeah. Oh man. To say that we are excited here at Filmgazm for this new Halloween content is a severe understatement.
Oh my God, Halloween. The new Halloween was one of my absolute favorites of the decade.
Yeah. It is an astonishing film. Yeah.
Next up, Jude Law is going to be playing Captain Hook in Disney's live-action Peter Pan that they're currently developing.
Right on.
I can see that. Jude Law.
Yeah, me too. Jude Law can do anything, man. He's great.
I love Jude Law. But nobody will ever replace Dustin Hoffman. He's my favorite Hook.
I agree.
Goddamn, he transformed. I don't even see Dustin Hoffman in that movie. He's so Captain Hook. It's perfect.
Talk about a guy who has been up for some fucking Oscars. My Lord. Hoffman will definitely come up in the future. Yeah.
For sure. This was cool. Lee Winnell is going to be directing the Wolfman reboot starring Ryan Gosling that Blumhouse is working on. Couldn't get a better name. He proved himself with The Invisible Man, and he's going to do fucking wonders with that. I can't wait.
Oh man, yeah. This is like a dream for movie fans, for us anyway, to see a guy who's, coming off of I adore Upgrade. I think Upgrade is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Invisible Man and Ryan Gosling, who's just been kind of doing all kinds of stuff throughout the past, 20 years. This is really cool to see him put his foot into the horror circle.
Gosling.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait.
And I think the idea was his, like the story idea was Gosling's. So like, this is
yeah. I mean,
he came to them and was like, "I want to be Wolfman. Let's do this."
Yes, yeah. Gosling's a student of film, and I think he genuinely wants part of his legacy to be remembered as horror. It's awesome.
I'm excited to see where this goes. And finally, and this was really cool, Stephen King's most recent novella collection, If It Bleeds, has been optioned for several movies. Rat, the story about a writer suffering writer's block and making a deal with a weird ghostly rat. The story's been optioned by Ben Stiller. He's going to be directing and starring in it.
Right on.
That'll be cool. The Life of Chuck, which is a very cerebral kind of shock to reality of like what exactly is our world kind of story, has been optioned very appropriately by Darren Aronofsky.
So, Hell yes.
He's going to get weird. And then finally, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, a good old-fashioned ghost story, was optioned by Ryan Murphy with Blumhouse and Netflix. John Lee Hancock will be directing it.
Cool.
So good stuff to come on the King front. If It Bleeds was a good read. I read that about a month ago, and it was awesome. The guy still has it. He's
prolific as hell.
My favorite thing about it is the stories have not suffered. Like the quality has not gone down. The work is like in many ways like he's releasing some of his best stuff lately.
It's amazing. It's so cool.
Love it. So that was nice. What are we doing next week?
Next week is I would say our biggest episode yet, because it is the first ever and one of only 3 films to ever win the Big Five. And that's 1934's It Happened One Night, directed by the great Frank Capra. Super excited for that. I know you watched it fairly recently.
Yeah, prior to the show, before we ever started this thing, I just watched it on a whim, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's going to be very fun to rewatch. This is one that kind of swept up, the awards again. Won the Big Five. Only 3 films ever have done that. That one for the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975, and Silence of the Lambs in 1991. Those will most certainly be brought from the Filmgazm podcast on over to the Oscar Sunday podcast at some point.
Yep.
But we're definitely gonna do It Happened One Night first. That'll be next week, man. Come back and join us. I don't think it's on a streaming service right now, but it is on Prime for $2.99. So that's not that bad for like a classic film that made history. So if you want to watch that, we would appreciate that. You come on back next week and hear what we got to say about it.
Yes, indeed. And if you want a little bit more nerd street credit for you, we're also doing on the Filmgazm podcast Mystery Men on Wednesday.
Yes.
So you can check that out. And we'll have It Happened One Night for you on Sunday. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next Sunday.